In German Kashmir, security forces kill 5 terrorists in Kulgam encounter. India's Home Minister Amit Shah calls high-level security meeting. In India's Mumbai, 13 dead and 99 rescued after Navy boat collides with ferry off its coast. Prime Minister Modi announces ₹2 lakh ex gratia for the victims. US imposes new sanctions over Pakistan's nuclear-armed missile program. Islamabad terms the decision as unfortunate and biased. Republicans scrap government funding bill as Trump demands changes just before the deadline. And big news coming in from India's Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. 5 terrorists were killed during an ongoing gunfight in the Kadar area of Kulgam district in central Kashmir on Thursday. The operation was launched early this morning following specific intelligence about the presence of terrorists in the area. During the cordon and search operation, the terrorists opened fire, triggering a fierce exchange of gunfire. 2 security personnel also sustained injuries in the encounter, who are currently undergoing treatment. The operation is still underway and further details are awaited. And for more, we have Salman Qazi joining us on the phone line from there. Well, Salman, joint search operation underway in Jammu and Kashmir's Kulgam. Tell us what's happening right now. What's the latest?
This operation was launched yesterday night during the night hours, and it was based on an intelligence that there was a presence of militants in the area. So the security forces cordoned off the area, and there was an exchange of fire after that. What we have got from our sources there is that the firing has stopped. The search operation is on, and 5 militants have been killed in this operation so far. And 2 security personnel have sustained injuries.
All right. Salman, as you said, the search operations are going on. Any breakthroughs there?
I think this is mostly of a standard operating procedure. Whenever there is an operation, security forces conduct an operation in the area, they carry the thorough search in the area to ensure that there is no further presence of militants in the area. I don't think there will be any more reports of any more casualties, because when the encounter started, we were informed that police suspected that there will be 4 to 5 militants there in the area. So now that the reports are coming that 5 militants have been killed, I don't think that there would be any more fighting activity. But the security forces will carry on their standard operating procedures. They will come through the area, and then eventually after that they will give a formal press briefing on the encounter regarding what has been captured, what the identification and affiliation of these militants was.
All right, Salman. Thank you so much for all those details from there. And moving on, police in North Kashmir's Kupwara district have carried out major operations against the drug peddlers and traffickers in the past 1 year. In a briefing on Wednesday, SSP Kupwara district Ghulam Jilani said that police have registered 67 cases under the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act in 2024, resulting in the arrest of 103 individuals involved in drug peddling and trafficking. He also urged the public to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activities to the nearest police station.
103 के करीब लोग गिरफ्तार हो चुके हैं और 2-3 अभी वांटेड है हमें। कल रात को भी हमने एक अच्छा ऑपरेशन, ज्वाइंट ऑपरेशन आर्मी के साथ किया टंगार एरिया में, जिसमें हमने 4 पिस्टलें और करीब 3.25 kg ड्रग्स नारकोटिक्स के सीज किए हैं।
And India and China held high-level talks on Wednesday to address their long-standing border dispute and mend frozen ties after years of tension. In a rare meeting in Beijing on 18 December 2024, special representatives from both the nations, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, turned a new page in their strained relationship. The discussions hovered around potential consequences for regional stability and global diplomacy. This was 23rd meeting of special representatives of both the sides. The special representatives met in accordance with the decision taken during the recent meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in Kazan. The special representatives reiterated the importance of maintaining a political perspective of the overall bilateral relationship while seeking a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable framework for settlement of the boundary question and resolve to inject more vitality into this process. Well, this was the first meeting of the SRs since frictions had emerged in the western sector of the India-China border areas in 2020. The SRs positively affirmed the implementation of the latest disengagement agreement of October 2024, resulting in patrolling and grazing in relevant areas. Both special representatives underlined the importance of maintaining peace and tranquility in the border areas to promote overall development of the India-China bilateral relationship. They emphasized the need to ensure peaceful conditions on the ground so that issues on the border do not hold back the normal development of bilateral relations. Drawing on the learnings from the events of 2020, they discussed various measures to maintain peace and tranquility on the border and advance effective border management. They decided to use, coordinate and guide the relevant diplomatic and military mechanisms towards this purpose. The SRs exchanged views on bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest. They provided positive directions for cross-border cooperation and exchanges, including resumption of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, data sharing on trans-border rivers and border trade. While they also agreed on the salience of stable, predictable and amicable India-China relations for regional and global peace and prosperity, NSA invited Wang Yi to visit India at a mutually convenient date to hold the next round of special representatives meeting. Well, besides the special representatives meeting on border issue, NSA Ajit Doval also called up on Chinese Vice President Han Zheng in Beijing, noting that next year will mark the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and India. China's Han said the two sides should implement the important consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries, maintain the momentum of high-level exchanges, foster political mutual trust and gradually resume institutional dialogue as well as exchanges and cooperation in such fields as economy, trade and culture to bring bilateral relations back onto the track of stable development. While UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the latest agreement between India and China to improve relations between them and take positive steps on border issues, his spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said on Wednesday that the United Nations welcomed the positive result of this effort of a very important bilateral diplomacy. He added that settling international disputes through bilateral efforts should be saluted. And moving on, at least 13 people were killed and 99 rescued after an Indian Navy speedboat crashed into a ferry off the Mumbai coast on Wednesday. According to official statement, the Indian Navy craft lost control while undertaking engine trials in Mumbai harbour due to engine malfunction. As a result, the boat collided with the passenger ferry, which subsequently capsized. The ferry was transporting passengers from Gateway of India to Elephanta Island. The deceased include a naval officer and 2 people from the original equipment manufacturer on board the naval craft. An inquiry has been initiated to determine the exact cause of the incident. Also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over the mishap. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "Condolences to the bereaved families. I pray that the injured recover soon. Those affected are being assisted by the authorities. An ex gratia of ₹2 lakh from PMNRF for the next of kin of each deceased in the boat mishap in Mumbai. The injured would be given ₹50,000, unquote. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh too expressed condolence, saying, and I quote, "Deeply saddened by the loss of precious lives in the collision between passenger ferry and Indian Navy craft in Mumbai harbour. Injured personnel, including naval personnel and civilians from both vessels, are receiving urgent medical care," unquote. And for more on this, we have Shishir Shella joining us. Well, Shishir, an extremely sad incident and an inquiry has been initiated to determine the exact cause of the incident. Has anything been ascertained as of now?
Well, absolutely horrific incident took place yesterday. We have seen here that the boat collision between the Indian ferry, the Indian naval boat and the passenger ferry here resulted nearly 13 deaths. What we got to know from the official is that nearly 101 people have been rescued. 13 people have been dead, out of which 3 of them are from the naval officers. 1 is from Navy officer and the 2 are from the boat manufacturing company. But immediately after this incident, the authorities went into action. And what the authorities are saying that they will carry out thorough inquiry about this accident here. The Indian, especially Navy, and along with that, the Maharashtra government, the Maharashtra police will carry out the entire operations here for all the inquiries here, and they will find out what exactly went wrong behind this accident. Well, so far, the Maharashtra Chief Minister have already announced a 5 lakh rupees help to the deceased people here, and those who are already been injured in these hospitals, the government is bearing the cost here. The most important fact is that the many questions have been raised after this incident here. The one important fact is that after this accident here, were the passenger ferry boat have already raised alarm or not? Were they having proper equipment or not? And second important thing is that when the naval speedboat was carrying out its operation, how the boat actually got out of control. So these are the major questions that probably will come to know once the inquiry is done. But as the Chief Minister yesterday promised that very soon the inquiry will take place here, and the state official along with the Navy officials will jointly conduct this inquiry.
All right. Also, what about the condition of the injured?
Well, what we got to know in the morning that nearly 101 people have been admitted, and some of them have been discharged here, because few of them have been admitted to the government hospital, and some of them has also been admitted to the naval hospital. And the reason, the data that we've received just so far is that nearly 3 people are actually, 2 people are critically injured, and almost 100 of them have got, some of them have got a minor injury, and that's the reason they've got discharged in the early morning. But the next, the bulletin probably will come from the hospital sides that what is the current condition of those who have been admitted in this hospital here. But what the government officials are saying that nearly 100 people have been rescued. That means only some of them must have occurred small injuries, and they've been discharged after that. The numbers is not clear yet. But the critical patients that we've got to know is that nearly 2 to 3 people actually, the fatal injuries have been happened to them, and the treatment is going on right now.
All right, maximum people have been rescued. Thank you so much, Shishir, for all those details. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Britain announces additional £225 million of military equipment to Ukraine. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken hopeful of reaching a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And UN envoy to Syria calls for free and fair elections after the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad.
Pollution of all types across the globe is a huge problem. But what is the solution to this? Does it require individual efforts, community action, or state interference? Let's take a look at some of the possibilities challenges and opportunities?
They have to segregate their waste, manage their organic waste within their premises as far as possible. They have to hand over the rest of the waste, the residual waste, to the authorized waste collector.
When the local administration saw what I had done, it decided to build the drainage system you see here, connecting the whole area to it.
Trees are our lifesavers. They give us oxygen, and it's unfair to harm them by hammering iron nails into them just for the sake of ads.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, the United States has imposed new sanctions related to Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile program, including on the state-owned defense agency that oversees the program. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller in a statement said that the measures slapped on the National Development Complex and 3 firms were imposed under an executive order that targets proliferators of weapons of mass destruction and their means of delivery. The sanctions are part of ongoing U.S. efforts to curb the spread of missile technology and prevent further escalation of the global proliferation threat. Well, as a result of these sanctions, the entities involved will face financial and trade restrictions, including being cut off from U.S. markets and resources. The U.S. government has stated that these measures are necessary to address the growing risks associated with the development of long-range ballistic missiles in Pakistan. Also, Pakistan's foreign ministry said in a statement that the U.S. action was unfortunate and biased and would harm regional stability. Pakistan conducted its first nuclear weapons test in 1998, becoming the 7th country to do so. Islamabad has refused to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the cornerstone of the international system designed to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. And updates on Ukraine-Russia conflict now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Brussels on the sidelines of the European Union Western Balkans Summit. During their meet, both the leaders discussed on possible deployment of French troops in Ukraine as a means to help achieve a stable peace. The meeting comes at a crucial time as Ukraine urges its allies to strengthen support both on the battlefield and diplomatically before any potential talks with Russia. Taking to X, Zelensky said that Ukraine and France share a common vision that is reliable guarantees are essential for a peace that can truly be achieved. He further said that Kyiv is working on President Macron's initiative regarding the presence of forces in Ukraine that could contribute to stabilizing the path to peace. And Britain announced on Thursday that it would send an additional £225 million to $86 million of military equipment to Ukraine. The package includes £92 million for equipment to bolster Ukraine's navy, £68 million for air defense equipment, including radars, decoy land equipment, and counter-drone electronic warfare systems, £26 million to provide support and spare parts for systems previously delivered to Ukraine, £39 million to provide more than 1,000 counter-drone electronic warfare systems, and for joint procurement of respirators and equipment to enhance the protective capabilities of Ukraine's armed forces. Britain also said that it would offer more military training to Ukraine. Meanwhile, British Foreign Minister David Lammy on Wednesday urged European allies to step up their support for Ukraine. The comments came while he was in Brussels, Belgium, to meet with Ukraine's Zelensky, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and other European allies to discuss military and financial support as well as military training.
There is no doubt that we meet at a time when there is widespread bloodshed and loss of life on the battlefield, where Ukraine's energy supplies are being attacked on an almost daily basis, and in which the front line is bloody and feels rather merciless. For all of those reasons, it's hugely important that allies right across Europe step up in that support that they are giving Ukraine, the training that is still necessary for their armed forces, the finances that we need over the longer term, and we have to find innovative ways to find that finance. Those are the conversations that are going on so that we can put Ukraine in the strongest possible position.
Well, the World Bank too approved a $2.05 billion funds to Ukraine on Wednesday. The newly allocated funds from the World Bank includes the first grant from a new $20 billion US loan fund for Kyiv that is backed by income from frozen Russian sovereign assets. The new package aimed at boosting Ukraine's financial and economic stability also includes World Bank financing of $1.05 billion that is enhanced with loan guarantees from a trust fund supported by Japan and Britain. And in the face of Donald Trump's announcement to reduce defense funding to Ukraine, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that our aid to Kyiv's defense forces have increased jobs back in the U.S. The comments were made during an event hosted by the Council on Foreign Relations in New York.
It's important to explain to people the money that we've spent defending Ukraine, most of that was spent here in the United States, in our own defense industrial base, manufacturing, building stuff that the Ukrainians need to defend themselves. Good American jobs have been a result of that.
Well, Germany may increase the size of its armed forces to 230,000, up from the current target of 203,000, as the NATO alliance looks to boost its strength after the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Germany's armed forces currently has some 180,000 personnel in uniform, around 20,000 short of the current target, as it has been struggling for years to recruit people. NATO is set to agree new and more demanding targets for the number of allied forces and weapons in 2025, reflecting what the alliance sees as a deterioration of the security situation. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government ramped up military spending, bringing its defense spending into line with NATO targets for the first time in decades. Budget rose toppled Scholz's three-party coalition last month, precipitating a snap election in February. And on to updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has expressed optimism of reaching a ceasefire between two warring sides in Gaza and promised to use his remaining month in office to achieve it. Blinken, repeating an assessment made last week when he paid his 12th visit to the West Asia since the conflict began, said that Hamas was showing more flexibility due to losses inflicted on its patron Iran. He added that ending conflict was in Israel's interest and there needed to be an agreement on post-conflict governance. The United States, joined by Arab mediators, sought to conclude an agreement between Israel and Hamas to end the 14-month-old conflict in Gaza. According to the sources, an agreement could be signed in coming days on a ceasefire and a release of hostages held in Gaza in return for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Well, Israel today said that it struck military targets belonging to Yemen's Houthi rebels after intercepting a missile fired by the group. Israeli army spokesman that IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructure in capital Sana'a.
Today, the IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructures in Sana'a, which the Houthis have been using in ways that effectively contributed to their military actions. Israel will not hesitate to act in order to defend itself and its citizens from the Houthis' attacks. The Houthis have been carrying out attacks against Israel in violation of international law, and the Houthi regime is a threat to peace and security in the region.
Earlier, the Israeli military said that sirens sounded in numerous areas in central Israel after a missile was launched from Yemen. The IDF said that missile was intercepted by the Israel's Iron Dome defenses before crossing into Israeli territory. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said 2024 had been a difficult year for Iran and suggested that Iran should rethink its foreign policy and focus on its economy after apparent setbacks this year. Speaking at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York on Wednesday, Blinken said the Iranian regime should stop getting involved in misadventures throughout the region and beyond.
There's no doubt this has not been a good year for Iran.
And we're seeing that play out every single day. And I think Iran has to make some fundamental choices. One choice it could make and should make is to focus on itself and focus on trying to build a better, more successful country that delivers for its people, which is clearly what most Iranians want, and to stop getting involved in these adventures or misadventures throughout the region and beyond.
And updates from Syria now. The UN envoy to Syria called on Wednesday for free and fair elections after the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad and expressed hope for a political solution for Kurdish-held areas. Years of civil war have left the country heavily dependent on aid, deeply fragmented and desperate for justice and peace. Calling for immediate humanitarian assistance, UN Special Envoy Geir Pedersen said he hoped to see an end to international sanctions levied against Syria over Assad's abuses. Rooted in Syria's branch of Al-Qaeda and proscribed as a terrorist organization by several Western governments, HTS has sought to moderate its rhetoric by assuring protection for the country's many religious and ethnic minorities. It has appointed a transitional leadership that will run the country until 1st of March. Also, the country's new rulers have sought to keep its institutions going, and on Wednesday, a commercial flight took off from Damascus airport to Aleppo, the first since Assad was toppled and fled to Russia. They've also stepped up contacts with countries that had long seen Assad as a pariah and with international institutions. Meanwhile, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said on Wednesday that Turkey and Lebanon agreed to act together to ensure stability in Syria as the country's two significant neighbors. Speaking at a press conference with Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati, Erdogan also said Lebanon's security as well as a lasting peace in Gaza are key to stability in the region. He also said Israel needs to end its presence on Syrian territories, while Mikati said Lebanon was suffering greatly due to Israel's continuing attacks. And hundreds of Syrians have crossed back into their home country since the border gates reopened earlier this month, sparking mixed reactions among Turkish residents over the economic and social effects of their departures. At the peak of the Syrian conflict, approximately 3.7 million Syrians sought refuge in Turkey. However, in recent years, rising anti-migrant sentiment driven by economic challenges and surging inflation has grown more pronounced. Many local residents believe that the city will be now more comfortable and the unemployment rate will go down, whereas some are of the view that Syrian migrants brought economic benefits and their departure might cause labor shortage. And still to come on DD India News Hour. US Supreme Court agrees to hear TikTok case 9 days before social media platform faces a ban. Cyclone Cheeto wreaks havoc across Mayotte, Mozambique and Malawi as rescue efforts continue. World's oldest complete 10 Commandments tablet sells at a much higher price than expected at NYC auction. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. In Jammu and Kashmir, security forces neutralized 5 terrorists in Kulgam encounter. India's Home Minister Amit Shah calls high-level security meeting. In India's Mumbai, 13 dead, 99 rescued after Navy boat collides with ferry off its coast. Prime Minister Modi announces Rs 2 lakh ex gratia for the victims. US imposes new sanctions over Pakistan's nuclear-armed missile program. Islamabad terms the decision as unfortunate and biased. Republicans scrap government funding bill as Trump demands changes just before the deadline. And moving on, the US Supreme Court agreed on Wednesday to hear TikTok's appeal of a law that would force its Chinese owner to sell the online video sharing platform or shut it down. The US government alleges TikTok allows Beijing to collect data and spy on the users. It also says the video hosting service is a conduit to spread propaganda, though China and ByteDance strongly deny these claims. The US top court scheduled oral arguments in the case for January 10th, that is 9 days before TikTok faces a ban unless ByteDance divorced from the popular app. The law signed by President Joe Biden in April would block TikTok from US app stores and web hosting services. TikTok is arguing that the law, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, violates its First Amendment free speech rights. The potential ban could strain US-China relations just as Donald Trump prepares to take office as president on the 20th of January. And well, the United States expressed concern at the United Nations Security Council meeting over Russia's plans to support North Korea's nuclear program. This would undermine the long-standing campaign for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. In September, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared the issue of denuclearization of North Korea closed for Moscow. U.S. Ambassador to UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield stated during the Security Council meeting on December 18 that alarmingly, we assess that Russia may be close to accepting North Korea's nuclear weapons program. She added this would overturn decades of Russia's commitment to supporting the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
Alarmingly, we assess that Russia may be close to accepting North Korea's nuclear weapons program, reversing Moscow's decade-long commitment to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. We believe that Moscow will become more reluctant not only to criticize Pyongyang's development of nuclear weapons, but also further obstruct passage of sanctions or resolutions condemning North Korea's destabilizing behavior, as we've already seen.
Well, in Vietnam, at least 11 people were killed and 2 others injured in a fire at a cafe in Hanoi on Wednesday night. The incident was reported at around 11 p.m. local time. The fire reportedly began on the first floor before quickly spreading through the building. Rescue workers rushed to the scene and managed to bring out 7 people alive, whilst 11 others were found dead. One person suspected of starting the blaze has been arrested by the Vietnam police. In Bangladesh, the High Court has acquitted former State Minister for Home Affairs Lutfosman Babar and 5 others who were sentenced to death in the 10-truck arms haul case in Chattogram. The court also commuted the death sentence of 6 convicts to 10 years imprisonment in the case. Indian separatist outfit United Liberation Front of Assam Chief Paresh Barua, another death row convict, and his sentence reduced to life imprisonment. The 10-truck arms hauls case is believed to be the largest arms smuggling incident in the history of Bangladesh. Investigators believed that delivery was intended for the Alpha. The case dates back to April 1, 2004, when 10 truckloads of arms were seized at the Chittagong Urea Fertilizer Limited jetty. On January 20, 2014, Chattogram Metropolitan Session Court sentenced 14 people to death under the Special Powers Act. And India and Liberia have agreed for support of their UNSC non-permanent seat candidatures for the year 2028-29 on reciprocal basis. The 2 nations held first round of Foreign Office consultations on Tuesday in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. During the FOC, both sides undertook a comprehensive review of the entire gamut of India-Liberia bilateral relations, encompassing key areas of bilateral cooperation, including trade, investment, mining, agriculture, health and pharmaceuticals, education, capacity building, and people-to-people exchanges. In the meetings, the Liberian ministers expressed their deep appreciation for India's efforts in making the African Union a permanent member of the G20. The next round of Foreign Office consultations will be held in New Delhi. And peacekeepers from India are serving the communities based in the towns of Malakal, Kodok and Rek in Upper Nile State with the United Nations mission in South Sudan. The peacekeepers are performing extraordinarily well in a challenging flood and conflict-affected part of the world's youngest nation. Engineering troops are not only engaged in flood mitigation measures but are also repairing supply routes vital for the livelihood of farmers, traders, humanitarians and peacekeepers alike. And weather-related updates now. First up from France, where exceptional natural disaster measures have been declared for Mayotte, battered by devastating Cyclone Cheeto. The measures will ensure faster and more effective management of the crisis, which has killed 13 people so far. French President Emmanuel Macron will be in Mayotte on Thursday to review the situation. Meanwhile, rescuers race to find survivors in the ruins of shanty towns, while also unblocking roads and clearing rubble. Bulldozers were clearing the Helipad port of the island's only hospital as residents were busy repairing their metal sheets hut. Health services across Mayotte are in tatters, while power and mobile phone services have been knocked out. The airport is closed to civilian flights, while the question of how to ensure supplies of drinking water has caused mounting concern. And after hitting Mayotte, Cyclone Cheeto made landfall in Mozambique, claiming at least 45 lives, injuring 500 people and destroying more than 20,000 homes. Residents started picking up the pieces on Wednesday after their homes were destroyed in Storm Cheeto over the weekend. 8 agencies are assisting survivors, often struggling with communication for their operation as power and connectivity cuts persist. According to Nicholas Wasuna, UNICEF Chief Field Officer in Pemba, more than 90% of homes were damaged there or destroyed in the cyclone.
We have had an issue of power, of internet, and these are critical to support the response, especially in coordination and being able to really drive the response forward. But we've worked without it. And as you can see now, we're heading to the initial response. But you can see the devastation that Cyclone Cheeto created, especially for these very vulnerable families here.
Well, NASA's mapping of Mars now bears the name of 3 iconic Algerian national parks. The Tassal and Ajer Goufi and Dourjoura national parks have found their Martian namesakes after a proposition by Algerian physicist Noureddine Melikechi, which he sought as both a tribute to his native Algeria and a call to protect Mother Earth. Melikechi said the visual resemblance between some of the Martian landscapes and the ones after which they were labelled was also a key reason for the naming. And music mogul Sean Diddy Combs appeared in a New York federal courtroom on Wednesday in a pre-trial hearing in his sex trafficking case. The rapper and producer pleaded not guilty on September 17 to charges that he used his business empire, including his record label Bad Boy Entertainment, to sexually abuse women. Prosecutors said the abuse included having women take part in recorded sexual performances called with male sex workers who were sometimes transported across state lines. Combs have denied wrongdoing, and his lawyers have said the sexual activity described by prosecutors was consensual. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Colombian Army's Coast Guard intercepted a shipwrecked vessel carrying close to 1.5 tons of cocaine in Buenaventura. The boat was heading to Central America. 3 men were rescued and later detained. The confiscated cocaine is estimated to hold a value exceeding $50 million in the international black market. Families held a protest against child deaths, most of whom were killed by stray bullets in Rio de Janeiro on Wednesday. NGO organizing the protest said it monitored child and adolescent violent deaths in Rio since 2007, recording 115 cases. 48 victims aged between 7 months and 14 years recorded between 2020 and 2024. The world's oldest complete 10 Commandments tablet sold at auction in New York City on Wednesday for $5.04 million. This approximately 1,500-year-old tablet fetched more than expected, surpassing its pre-auction estimate of $1 million to $2 million. It was unearthed in 1913 during railway excavation along the southern coast of Israel. Well, NASA's return of astronauts to Earth has been further delayed. One watch should have been an 8-day stay on the International Space Station to now more than 9 months. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore had traveled to the ISS in June for the test mission, but their return was extended by 8 months to February after the Boeing Starliner capsule they arrived on was deemed unfit to return them on Earth. Kyiv Zoo has received food donations from Germany and Austria to help keep their animals alive through the winter months and during blackouts. As the country is fighting with Russia, German and Austrian zoos donated a total of 18 tons of specialized dried food for animals a week before Christmas. Kyiv Zoo officials said many of the animals' diet rely particularly on this particular dry food. Ukrainian enterprises producing dry food were either destroyed by conflict or are located in areas where fighting is ongoing. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India becomes third largest exporter of smartphones in the world. Indian women team all set to take on West Indies in the third and final T20 today. And 2025 numerals arrive in Times Square for New Year's Eve celebration.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana. On to some business news now. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump urged Republican lawmakers on Wednesday to scupper a cross-party deal to avert a fast-looming U.S. government shutdown. Staring down a Friday night deadline to fund federal agencies, party leaders in Congress had agreed on a continuing resolution to keep the lights on until mid-March and avoid having to send public workers home without pay over Christmas. Trump holds a huge sway over Republicans, and his intervention makes it almost certain that the bill will fail. But the compromise was pilloried by numerous Republicans, most notably tech billionaire Elon Musk, whom Trump has charged with slashing government spending in his second term. In a joint statement, Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance suggested that the concessions to Democrats were a betrayal of our country. They would be against any package that does not include an extension to the federal borrowing limit, which the country is on track to hit just as Republicans take total control of Congress in January. Well, the current federal debt is $36.2 trillion, and Congress has raised the limit more than 100 times to allow the government to meet its spending commitments. The next extension was not part of the shutdown negotiations, and the demand took lawmakers by surprise. Government departments and services from national parks to border control will begin shuttering Saturday unless an agreement is reached. And now let us explain some terms for better understanding of what may happen in the United States, where most of the non-essential services are going to be affected in case of a shutdown, which means pay for most of the workers will be delayed, while the U.S. Constitution specifies that the president continues to get paid. Now, what is the debt ceiling? Borrowing by the federal government when it runs a deficit limit on debt ceiling set by Congress. Currently, that limit is $31.4 trillion, and the current stopgap bill is due to expire on the 20th of December. Now, what happens in a government shutdown? Well, under Anti-Deficiency Act, federal government cannot spend without Congress approval. If Congress fails to enact 12 annual appropriation bills, it will cease all non-essential functions, and that is called government shutdown. So what is a continuing resolution CR? The continuation of funding at prior year's appropriations level is continuing resolution, or CR. Temporary spending bills fund government operations until a specified date. Most of the most essential services such as U.S. Postal Service, Social Security Administration, Medicare, food benefits, security agencies, federal courts, U.S. embassies and consulates will remain unaffected. While training of new air traffic controllers would not be possible, foreign aid, including new aid to shelter migrants, will be difficult to execute. National parks, monuments, ranger, restrooms, help desk will remain closed. Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Security Agency, SEC, commodity future trading, publication of major U.S. economic data, internal revenue will remain largely affected. Also, there will be no loans to small business administration, and funds for research, conservation and rural development programs will also be hampered. And the U.S. Central Bank has cut interest rates by 25 basis points for a third time, despite concerns that the move will deliver a boost to the economy that risks inflation. The Fed cut rates by 25 basis points to the 4.25% to 4.50% range, and its summary of economic projections indicated it will make rate cuts totaling a half percentage point by the end of 2025. The Fed's 19 policymakers projected that they will cut their benchmark rate by a quarter point just twice in 2025, down from the previous estimate in September of 4 rate cuts. U.S. central bankers now project they will make just 2/4 percentage point rate reductions by the end of 2025. That is half a percentage point less in policy easing next year than officials anticipated as of September. U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell highlighted a cautious outlook at his post-meeting news conference after the rate cut.
The outlook is pretty bright for our economy. We have to stay on task, though, and continue to have restrictive policies so that we can get inflation down to 2%. The U.S. is not feeling really the effects of geopolitical turmoil, but we are certainly at a time of elevated geopolitical turmoil, and it remains a risk.
Well, U.S. stocks plunged on Wednesday, erasing earlier gains after the Federal Reserve cut interest rates and the central bank's economic projections signaled a slower pace of cuts next year. The Dow and S&P saw their biggest one-day percentage decline since August 5, and the Nasdaq saw its biggest daily decline since July 24th. The Dow suffered its 10th straight session of declines to mark its longest daily streak of losses since an 11-session skid in October 1974. And India has become the third largest exporter of smartphones in the world, which was on the 23rd ranking in 2019. The country's smartphone exports have also breached the 20,000 crore rupees mark in a single month in November 2024, according to data submitted by companies and figures compiled from industry associations. Sharing a news article on a social media platform, Union Minister of Electronics and Information Technology Ashwini Vaishnaw lauded this achievement and termed it a Make in Bharat story. Well, India's Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal lauded the efforts of the leather industry also in the country. Goyal asserted that India has become a brand across the globe as the world notices India's capabilities, style and our commitment. The comments came during an awards ceremony where Goyal gave away the National Export Excellence Awards for the year 2023-24 in Delhi on Wednesday.
All agreed to embark on the journey of Viksit Bharat. Your sector will play an important role, not only to ensure that every child in the country, every resident of India, every citizen of India has quality footwear, but the footwear made in India will go across oceans, across the world.
Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. 7 months after the hugely popular undisputed heavyweight boxing fight, Oleksandr, Usyk and Tyson Fury are set to face off once again in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Saturday. Both boxers held public workouts on Wednesday ahead of the highly anticipated rematch. May 19th fight earlier this year saw Usyk become the first undisputed heavyweight boxing champion of the world in 24 years. However, the Ukrainian lost the undisputed crown after he vacated one of his 4 world title belts a few weeks later. And in women's cricket, India will take on West Indies in the third and final T20 in the 3-match series in Navi Mumbai on Thursday. With the series tied at 1-1, the third match is the virtual decider, with India hoping to make amends at home after the recent disappointment of losing an ODI series in Australia. India won the opening encounter by 49 runs. However, West Indies bounced back in the second match, defeating the host by 9 wickets. And in soccer, Spanish club Real Madrid won the Intercontinental Cup after beating Mexico's Pachuca 3-0 in the title clash on Wednesday. For Real, Kylian Mbappe, Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. registered in score sheet. It was a largely one-sided contest at the Lusail Stadium in Qatar, with Real doing just enough and never looking likely to cede control despite allowing their opponents to threaten occasionally from counter-attacks. With this title, Madrid coach Ancelotti became the manager with the most titles in the club's history, with a total of 15 trophies. And the Kho-Kho Federation of India on Wednesday announced Bollywood star actor Salman Khan as the brand ambassador for the first ever Kho-Kho World Cup. The inaugural edition of the World Cup will take place in New Delhi from January 13th to January 19th, 2025. The week-long tournament will feature 24 countries battling it out for the title. India will host arch rivals Pakistan in the opening match. The tournament will feature 24 countries including USA, England, Germany, Australia and Brazil competing in a league-cum knockout format for both men's and women's team. And preparations for New Year's celebration is underway as 13 days before New Year's Eve, the giant 7-foot-tall numerals for the year of 2025 arrived in Times Square on Tuesday. The sign will be installed atop one Times Square to illuminate at midnight on New Year's Eve. The 4 numerals will use a total of 620 energy-efficient LED bulbs. While India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provide a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. All right, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.